Egypt's foreign ministry says hundreds of Egyptian detainees in Libya will be released and returned home soon. Eight Arab and Islamic states call for immediate UN-led humanitarian aid access to Gaza. And Angelina Jolie visits the Rafah crossing and Red Crescent warehouses in North Sinai. Good evening, this is Q News with all the latest from here in Egypt. Ambassador Haddad El-Gohari, Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs and Consular Affairs, confirmed that the coming period will witness the release of several hundred Egyptian citizens from Libyan prisons. He noted that procedures to secure their release are currently being finalized and their legal status settled in preparation for their repatriation from Libyan prisons to their homeland. The Assistant Minister had met with more than 200 families of Egyptian citizens reported missing in Libyan territory, during which he emphasized the close follow-up by the Egyptian consulate in Benghazi and the Egyptian embassy in Tripoli on reports of missing persons across all Libyan prisons. He added that the ministry's efforts during 2025 resulted in the repatriation of more than 3,000 Egyptian citizens in Libya accused in cases related to irregular migration, the release of over 1,200 citizens from Libyan prisons, and the transport of more than 300 bodies at the state's expense following the drowning of irregular migration boats off the Libyan coast. Egypt expressed its heartfelt condolences to the government and people of the friendly Swiss Confederation over the victims of the tragic fire that broke out in the Crans-Montana area, resulting in a large number of fatalities and injuries. Egypt affirmed its full solidarity with Switzerland during this painful, tragic time, extending its sincere sympathies to the families of the victims and wishing a speedy recovery to the injured. Eight Arab and Islamic states are calling for the immediate, full and unhindered entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza through the United Nations, warning conditions have become life-threatening for around 1.9 million displaced people. In a joint statement, the foreign ministers of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey and Qatar called for aid to enter Gaza without interference through the UN and its agencies. They warned harsh winter weather, shortages of essential supplies and limits on humanitarian access are compounding the crisis, putting displaced families in inadequate shelters at heightened risk. The ministers said conditions now pose an unprecedented threat to civilians and urged urgent action to scale up assistance. Minister of Local Development and Acting Minister of Environment, Manal Awad, reviewed a 2025 report highlighting the Ministry of Environment's climate action efforts, including the Green Climate Fund's approval of a $200 million Novastar investment fund and a $50 million equity allocation to Egypt for climate technology investments. Awad highlighted that in its capacity as the national authority for the Green Climate Fund, the Ministry of Environment successfully mobilized 688 million euros through the Global Green Bond Initiative, financed by the European Investment Bank and the United Nations Development Programme. This funding supports the implementation of Egypt's National Climate Change Strategy 2050, particularly efforts to strengthen climate finance infrastructure and promote innovative financing mechanisms with a focus on adaptation. International star Angelina Jolie visited the Rafah border crossing and the Red Crescent warehouses in North Sinai. During the visit, Jolie, accompanied by the Governor of North Sinai, reviewed the humanitarian supplies stored in the warehouses, including medicines, food items and essential equipment distributed to families affected by wars and natural disasters. Jolie expressed her deep appreciation for the work of the Red Crescent, praising the efforts made to meet the needs of those affected in conflict areas. Angelina Jolie, who serves as a special envoy for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, emphasized the importance of both international and local cooperation in providing support to communities suffering from displacement and poverty. In a region where a single spark can become a wider war, Egypt has played a different role, not escalation but containment. Its de-escalatory power comes from a rare mix: geography that connects the crisis zones, political weight that gives Cairo leverage, and a proven ability to keep channels open when other doors shut. From Gaza to Sudan, from Lebanon and Libya to the Nile file, Egypt's strategy is consistent: lower the temperature first, widen humanitarian and diplomatic space, protect state institutions, and prevent crises from spilling across borders. This is influence measured not by louder speeches, but by calmer outcomes.
Egypt's de-escalatory power is built on one thing most countries in the region cannot combine at the same time: geography, political weight, and a proven ability to keep channels open when others shut doors. In the most sensitive file, Gaza, Egypt operates as a pressure valve. Cairo does not just call for calm, it builds the practical conditions for calm, opening lines with all sides, pushing for pauses that hold, widening humanitarian access, and working to prevent a local flare-up from turning into a regional explosion. Egypt's approach is methodical: reduce the temperature first, then negotiate the harder steps, and keep the process alive even when trust collapses. In Sudan, Egypt's role is about containment and rescue at once. With a war that threatens borders, refugees, and regional stability, Cairo's diplomacy focuses on stopping the slide, backing ceasefire efforts, supporting humanitarian corridors, and keeping the idea of a unified Sudan on the table, because a fragmented Sudan is a long-term security threat to everyone. In Lebanon, Egypt's influence shows up in the language of restraint. Cairo consistently reinforces the importance of state institutions, warns against opening new fronts, and supports political solutions that protect Lebanon from being dragged deeper into wider confrontations. And in Libya, has long pushed the same de-escalation formula: preserve the state, avoid a security vacuum, and keep a political track moving toward elections, because instability there spills directly into North Africa and the Mediterranean. Even on the Nile and the GERD file, Egypt's preference remains diplomacy first, insisting on rights while prioritizing dialogue and a framework that prevents escalation and protects regional stability. In a region where crises feed on chaos, Egypt's diplomacy plays the opposite role. It slows the fall, holds the line, and keeps political space open. That is de-escalatory power, not louder speeches, but quieter, persistent influence that prevents wars from becoming wider wars.
Now, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held meetings with several ministers and officials to follow up on the execution status of the remaining works at the El Fustat Gardens project, as well as the progress of the new urban development west of Daba. The meeting reviewed the execution status of the El Fustat Gardens project, noting that the completion of development works in the area around Amr Ibn al-As Mosque Square and the cultural zone, which includes 6 restaurants and the Cairo Egyptian Club, confirming that the project's completion rate has reached approximately 95%. The Prime Minister directed that all remaining works at the Alforstadt Gardens project be completed quickly and to a high standard so that the project can be opened and operational as soon as possible. Minister Mohammed Garba revealed that last year saw major legislative reforms and field initiatives aimed at balancing the labour market and enhancing job security. The minister revealed figures on supporting informal workers, with total disbursements from the central fund for this group reaching around 1.5 billion Egyptian pounds. The Ministry of Transport categorically denied reports circulating in some media outlets and on social media claiming that the price of the £8 metro ticket would be raised to £10 due to a shortage of change, stressing that these reports are completely false. The Ministry affirmed that no decision has been made to increase metro ticket prices at any time or by any amount, and there is no intention to do so in the future. It also emphasised that any adjustment to metro ticket prices is subject to a strict system and comprehensive study with a broader plan and can only be approved by the Cabinet. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held a meeting to follow up on the completion of first phase projects under the Presidential Decent Life or Haya Karima initiative. The Prime Minister emphasised mobilising all efforts and providing the necessary funding to expedite the completion of the various first phase projects, ensuring that citizens have access to the diverse services offered through these projects. He also highlighted preparations for entering the second phase of the initiative and beginning implementation of its service and development projects across the targeted villages nationwide. The meeting reviewed the detailed status of first phase projects under the Decent Life initiative, noting that a total of 22,013 projects across various sectors have been completed and 16,519 projects have been officially handed over. Alec Farouk, the Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, announced a new leap in Egypt's agricultural exports, confirming the country's success in opening 25 new foreign markets in recent times. Farouk revealed that the digital coding system achieved unprecedented figures this year, covering approximately 6,450 farms and export stations, with a total cultivated area of 695,000 fedans. He explained that Egypt's export map has expanded remarkably, as more than 405 diverse agricultural products are currently being exported to 167 countries around the world. These figures come as a culmination of plans for horizontal expansion of agricultural land and the development of packaging, transportation and shipping methods. The Ministry of Housing said that New Alamein City Authority has received international ISO certification in crisis risk and quality management, becoming the first city authority under the New Urban Communities Authority to achieve the accreditation. Minister of Housing Sharif El-Shabini praised the achievement, calling it the result of intensive institutional efforts and the implementation of comprehensive systems based on the highest standards of quality, efficiency and governance. He said the certification reflects the ongoing administrative and service development in New Alamein City alongside its rapid urban and economic growth. And that's the latest news for Egypt, but let's get a recap of the main headlines tonight. Egypt's foreign ministry says hundreds of Egyptian detainees in Libya will be released and returned home soon. Eight Arab and Islamic states call for immediate UN-led humanitarian aid access to Gaza. And Anthony Ajodi visits the Rafah Crossing and Red Crescent warehouses in North Sinai. For more updates, follow us on our social media platform at Qnews EGY on all your social media outlets, and stay watching for more here on Qnews.